And in Britain, the backlash from the vote continues. The leader of the Labour Party, Jeremy Corbyn, has lost a confidence vote among lawmakers in Parliament. The vote is non-binding, and so far Corbyn has indicated he will not resign. Corbyn has been blamed for the outcome of the referendum. Meanwhile, in Brussels, David Cameron is meeting with the leaders of the European Union today. Topic of discussion: when the UK will begin its process of exiting the EU. Mark Phillips has the latest outside the European capital.
The Brexit battle moves to Brussels today and moves to a new level of vitriol. And as EU Commission President Jean-Claude Juncker showed this morning, he's not very happy with the Brexiters at all.
The British people voted in favor of the exit. Why are you here?
There was plenty of anger to go around, including from Brexit campaigner Nigel Farage.
I know that virtually none of you have ever done a proper job in your lives.
David Cameron says it's up to Britain to decide when to call in the lawyers and start divorce proceedings, the so-called Article 50 of the EU treaty.
Before we do that, we need to determine the kind of relationship we want with the EU. And that is rightly something for the next Prime Minister and their cabinet to decide.
And the next Prime Minister, Boris Johnson, as the current front-runner, is stalling. The Leave side doesn't seem to have worked out the playbook for its drive to departure. As with any separating couple, the hope for an amicable divorce rarely survives the first shot across the table. This was scheduled as a two-day meeting, but David Cameron has already been uninvited for the second day. Mark Phillips, CBS News, Brussels.
And joining us now is Kevin Sullivan, Washington Post senior correspondent. He joins us from Washington. Kevin, what do you think European Union leaders are hoping to accomplish in this summit?
I think they're looking for a little clarity. This is obviously the first time that they've had a chance to talk to David Cameron since this immense vote. And I think they're trying to figure out where Cameron is, what Britain's schedule is going to be for withdrawing from the EU, and if there's, I suppose, if there's any possibility that this won't actually happen. But I think right now they're looking for some answers.
Yeah, a lot of people seem to be buzzing more so today than when this came down on Friday morning that there could be a potential of them not actually leaving. But why do you think the leaders of the EU want Britain to kind of slowly begin this process of leaving now?
We've seen nothing but chaos since this has happened. I mean, world financial markets are roiled. There's so much uncertainty out there that the EU wants clarity. They want Britain to be either in or out. And if they're going to be out, they want them out quickly. And David Cameron has said that they're actually going to wait. He's going to take a little time. And Cameron, very understandably, would like his successor to actually trigger the Article 50, trigger the actual process of removing Britain from the EU. So I think for the Europeans, they want a little stability. They want this to happen as quickly as possible.
Now tell me more, Kevin, about what you're hearing from people saying that we think this might not actually happen.
I think if you had to guess right now, you'd have to say it's just wishful thinking. I mean, millions of people, I think about 3 million people, have signed a petition in Britain saying that they would like another referendum. But 17 million people voted to get out. And David Cameron has been very, very clear, saying we have to respect the will of the people. It's just not democracy to have a vote and then say, oh, actually, we don't like the way the vote turned out, so let's have another one. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of people, there's been some buyer's remorse. A lot of people have said they wish they hadn't voted the way they did. But at this point, it's really anecdotal. The only hard evidence we have is that referendum, which was very clear.
Yeah, you know, a lot of people point to the fact this isn't actually a legally binding vote, but what are you going to have a referendum to take back the vote that you just made?
Right.
It's sort of murky waters. So where do people go now?
Well, I think right now you have to try to decide how this is going to happen. I mean, I think unless something radical changes, it is a given that Britain is leaving the EU, and Britain has to decide how they're going to do this with the least amount of disruption. Now, they're getting a lot of pushback already from the EU. Angela Merkel has basically said they can't cherry pick their relationship with the EU. A lot of people in Britain would like to have access to the EU market, would like to have kind of unfettered access to EU markets without allowing free movement of people, free movement of immigrants into the UK from the rest of the EU. And the EU is just saying, no, you're either in or you're out. You can't decide which ones of our regulations you're going to follow.
Yeah, it's a fascinating story, and I think it's going to be around for quite some time, Kevin.
Yes.
Thank you so much. Kevin Sullivan with the Washington Post.